Alaska Airlines passengers bracing for an emergency landing earlier tonight after a section of the plane blew off mid-flight. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us at 11. I'm Barry Mangold. The airline says the 177 passengers and crew on Flight 1282, which was originally headed to Ontario, California, are now safely back in Portland as the investigation continues. Katu's Jesse Satin has the latest.
A terrifying incident, 16,000 feet in the air.
We are emergency, we are depressurized. We do need to return back to, we have 177 passengers. There is 18.8.
Minutes after taking off from Portland International Airport Friday evening, Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 forced to turn around and make an emergency landing after a section of the plane's body blew out.
You heard a big loud bang to the left rear, like in row 20. And a whooshing sound and all the oxygen masks deployed instantly.
Photos shared with Katu show a gaping hole in the side of the plane, right next to the remnants of a seat. Passengers on board say the plane rapidly depressurized.
I understand from talking to a lady who was sitting in the row immediately behind where the panel blew out that there was you could see later that there was a two-window section panel that blew out. It's about as wide as a refrigerator and about 2/3 as high. And she said there was, I guess, a boy and his mother were sitting in that row, and his shirt was sucked off him and out of the plane, and his mother was holding on to him.
Roughly 20 minutes after taking off, the plane safely touched down back at PDX. According to the FAA registry, the plane, a Boeing 737 MAX 9, was certified for use only 2 months ago, in November.
The most important part of that scenario is to get your oxygen mask on.
Captain David Patton is a retired Southwest Airlines pilot. He says if this had happened at a higher altitude where there is less oxygen, the situation could have gone differently.
At 16,000 feet, it's considerably different than 37,000, 39,000 feet. It can be an explosive decompression where you'd lose a piece, possibly lose a piece of the aircraft at that high altitude. At lower altitudes, it's still an issue because you want to make sure that passengers get their oxygen masks on in a timely manner, and you get the aircraft down below 10,000 feet so there are no problems with people having issues with the cabin altitude.
Captain Patton tells us despite rare occurrences like what happened on Flight 1282, flying is still the safest form of travel, but he has a piece of advice for passengers.
You get, I would say, complacent listening to the flight attendants giving their briefing or the airplane giving its own briefing. Listen to the briefing and make sure that you understand.
Jesse Satin, K2 News.
In a statement tonight, Alaska Airlines said in part, quote, "The safety of our guests and employees is always our primary priority. So while this type of occurrence is rare, our flight crew was trained and prepared to safely manage the situation." The airline added that they are now investigating and will release more information as soon as it becomes available. And Boeing, the manufacturer of the plane, said on Twitter tonight that they are in contact with the airline and a Boeing technical team stands ready to support the investigation.